Well, we've come pretty far, the last episode before the big two-part finale, and Sisko anxiously frets in Ops while Bashir seems to want to flirt with Ezri instead.
Yes, in fact, I'm going to discharge him this afternoon.
And speaking of discharge, did you know my genetically enhanced prostate can hold off release for hours? Why don't I show you later this evening? But the real excitement is what Sisko has been waiting for, and it turns out to be a new Defiant-class ship. It's the USS Sao Paulo, which will punch the Dominion right in the ballo if Sisko has any say in the matter. I mean, just look at that grin of his. As soon as Ross is gone, he's going to be putting on a spacesuit and scrubbing the nacelles with a toothbrush to get them squeaky clean.
By the way, there's something else on that pad that might interest you.
Special dispensation from the Chief of Starfleet Operations to change the name from Sao Paulo
to USS Brass Knuckle. No, it's being rechristened as the New Defiant, a rather fitting name, though, for a ship that you blow up and it comes right back at you again. Speaking of Defiance, Damar and his group, including Garrick and Kira, are on their way back to Cardassia in that stolen Jem'Hadar ship. For Garrick, this is finally the chance to set foot on his homeworld again, even if it is under the boot heel of the Dominion. They're here to bring in more of the Cardassian military to their side, only there's one minor problem. One of the Gulls involved betrayed them, leading the Jem'Hadar right to the renegade Cardassians and wiping them all out before they could even meet with Damar. And the stolen ship, that gets shot down, leaving him, Kira, and Garrick trapped on Cardassia. With few options left, Garrick takes them to his old home where Mila still lives, though the downside to that is they have to deal with Mila.
I don't hear from you for years. And then you show up on my doorstep with these people.
I can't believe Garrick didn't call more often to experience more of this wonderful conversation.
I do apologize for the intrusion, but you're the only person on Cardassia I could trust.
Well, don't blame me if you don't have any friends left.
You should have been born with a scintillating personality like mine, craphead.
It's smaller than I remember.
Smaller? My first house could have fit in this room.
Mila, thank you. I promise we won't stay long.
Well, you might as well make yourselves useful. This place hasn't been cleaned in years.
Aren't you the housekeeper? Aren't you a pain in the ass? Dinner's at 6 sharp. Thank you. Pots and pans are over the sink. Don't overcook anything. Back on the station, Bashir has given Odo a final once-over to make sure that he's all better. And since he is, it's time to finally give him the bad news about where that disease came from. That Section 31 created it and used Odo to deliver it to his people. He is, understandably, rather pissed off at being used in this way, and betrayed by Starfleet after siding with them against his own. But that was the work of Section 31, a rogue agency. The Federation would never stand by and allow an entire sapient species to be wiped out if they could prevent it.
The Federation Council considered giving the Founders the cure. Then they decided against it.
I'm just fucking with you. We have a whole directive that lets us get away scot-free with that kind of shit. Sisko points out that although it is abhorrent in this situation, anything that strengthens the enemy is the wrong move right now. It is definitely not an easy choice. You know that the Founders are severely restricted in their ability to change forms now. If they were cured, they could begin infiltrating and undermining the war effort. It's not as if the Founders will feel indebted towards the Federation for curing them of a disease that Section 31 infected them with in the first place. Is not wanting to sink to the Dominion's level worth all of the lives that will be lost by reinvigorating the enemy? It's not an easy question to answer. Even Sisko seems to be struggling with it, and this is a man who once launched biological weapons at a planet. Yeah, but, in his defense, he was really mad at the time. Meanwhile, we have to bring the Ferengi plots to a close. They've been largely sidelined during the closing arc. Now, this is in part because Armin Shimmerman was also doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer at this time, and apparently there was a major story arc that his character was involved in, so he was left to a few brief cameos. But since it'd be better not to put that resolution into the finale, it's going to have to be handled here. So anyway, Quark gets a call from the Grand Nagus himself, though the signal's a bit garbled from all the rain. He's calling to announce that he's retiring, and he's coming here to name Quark his successor. He did go to the mat for Zek to get the job done, after all. Not literally, although not for a lack of trying on the part of that one pervert. Elsewhere, Bashir literally runs into Ezri so they can continue to discuss their inevitable relationship, which, after all the awkward words and near groping around each other, they suddenly decide they don't want to have jeopardize their friendship, by trying to turn it into a relationship. That could go badly. Well, not to worry, shippers. They will start making out in the turbo lift before the episode is over. We all got to get our love quota in before the credits roll. Meanwhile, Quark and the other Ferengi and the Dabo girls are all basking in the wake of the good news, but it's brought down by the arrival of Brunt. Poor Jeffrey Combs is doing double duty this week, having to get into his elaborate Weyoun makeup and then swap out for the even more elaborate Ferengi makeup. But it's worth it to an actor if they can have a chance to show the dignity of their craft.
1,000 congratulations.
In the more serious Jeffrey Combs plot, Weyoun announces the failure of the Cardassian rebellion and the death of Damar. Also the destruction of all 18 of the rebels' bases, meaning that the entirety of the resistance is now in this basement. But it is still a big basement. I have to insist upon that point. Kira says the only choice now is to escape, but Garrick points out the comm unit would be detected the moment they tried to contact the Federation, and if it's picked up, they aren't getting a visit from the FCC. It'd be someone worse, the Jem'Hadar. Well, slightly worse at least. Meanwhile, Quark is enjoying having the man who once revoked his business license now sucking up to him, but he'll never let a grudge get in the way of a business opportunity, and Brunt's got a hefty bribe in it for him. But it comes with a shocking revelation. Bribes are tax deductible. The bribery is not the shocking part of that. That's like finding out there's E. coli at McDonald's. It's what you'd expect to find there. No, it's the fact that they're tax deductible, which can only mean that taxes exist. And that's enough to make Ayn Rand crawl out of her grave and eat the brains of Jeremy Corbyn. It's all to pay for new social programs that Moogie convinced Zek to start, along with a Congress to ratify the decisions of the Nagus. It's progress, though. Now you can't just bribe the Nagus to get things done. Now you've got to bribe all the Congress members, too. That puts it a little fairer all around, don't you think? Quark laments the situation to Rom, who takes the opportunity while Quark was distracted to buy the bar at a bargain price. One more thing to irritate Quark once he realizes it. Not because of the money. Well, not just because of the money, but it's a sign that greed is no longer valued among the Ferengi. They used to love greed so much that the only reason they didn't have a bust of Gordon Gekko was they didn't want to pay for the likeness rights. Over in the entirely too big cellar, Mila arrives to share some good news. No, not that she's brought them a stick to keep the voles from gnawing on them while they sleep. The people out in the street won't stop talking about Damar. He's become a legend to them. Kira realizes that they could use this opportunity to start a revolution, get the people to rise up against the occupation of Cardassia. They just need a way to rally them together. But they'll be up against Broca, the Dominion-appointed head of Cardassia, who is there when Sanders announces that the fleets will be pulling back. It'll allow them to reinforce Cardassian territory for a reprieve, to allow them to rebuild their forces. One of the big advantages when your armies are clones is that you can replenish them like that. The other being that you don't have to worry about custom uniforms. One size really does fit all. But Damar, Kira, and Garrick are already putting their plan into action, planting a bomb in the nearest Jem'Hadar outpost. Garrick gets caught on the way out, though, so, desperate for a distraction until it goes off, Damar steps out like a big old badass. It's not pretty, but it does get the job done, and the crowd is astonished at what they've just seen. And he gives a speech that includes the word freedom a lot, which is always good for crowds. And speaking of which, crowds have gathered for the arrival of the Nagus, but Quark insists that he will not take the job if he's not allowed to run things his way. To which Zek is like, WTF? He's here to make Rom his successor. To which everyone else in the world says, WTF? This, incidentally, is why Zek introduced all those reforms and such. The writers decided that Rom would be the next Nagus, but both Shimmerman and Grodenchek ripped the idea apart, saying Rom would be eaten alive within 5 minutes of taking the job. The only way this could even slightly work would be if Ferenginar ceased being as it was, requiring a Nagus with skills outside of business, because Rom doesn't have any skills there whatsoever. I mean, that's like asking a eunuch, how great of a lover are you? As for Quark, he only thought that he got the job because Zek thought that he was Rom because of all the rain distorting the signal. He doesn't take the news very well and makes an announcement that the bar will have a new purpose.
This establishment will be the last outpost of what made Ferenginar great!
You should put that on a baseball cap. Still, it ends well enough.
I want to buy back the bar.
That's all right, brother. I'll give it to you.
I suppose you're going to let me keep the 5,000 bars of latinum, too.
You're my brother.
And you're an idiot.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
But I love you. Congratulations. You're the perfect Nagus for this new Ferenginar.
So with that all wrapped up, there's the matter of the war. With news of the Dominion withdrawal, naturally the heads of the three major powers need to decide what to do. You'd think it'd be a cause for celebration to have the Dominion flee their territory, but they all see how much this actually hampers their efforts. The Dominion isn't going to be happy coexisting with them. They will only wait until they're ready to strike once again. So it's either fight them now, or fight them later on. Now, they're more secure but they're weaker. Later on, they're going to come pouring out of there with fresh troops and rebuilt ships. Now, the rest of the quadrant has them beat when it comes to resources, naturally. They could build ships at a faster rate than them. But it doesn't matter if those ships are sitting empty in dry dock because there's not enough people to pilot them. The Dominion will never have that issue. So as ugly a business as it will be, they decide they'll have to penetrate their defenses and take down the Dominion permanently. But Sisko has his own reinforcements on the way. Cassidy announces she's pregnant. He's very excited about this, but she's worried about the warning from the prophets, what this might have to do with that. But he refuses to let anything like that take away from the joy of this moment. The only way this moment could be ruined right now is if she said, and Quark might be the father. The post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Bashir and Ezri. I'd give them one of those couple names like Brangelina, but I despise those things, so I won't. Final score for the Dogs of War is 7 out of 10. This is one final chance to wrap things up before the grand finale, and the episode does that quite effectively. I personally found nothing objectionable about the Ferengi plot. The change of fortune with the Cardassians was a nice bit of historic reversal, especially having Kira there to witness it. And the various threads wove themselves together quite well. Considering all it had to accomplish, it is a success. But ultimately, it is just the beat before the final chord is sung. Next time, it's the first half of the finale, What You Leave Behind.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I won't preside over the demise of Ferengi civilization. Not me! The line has to be drawn here. This far and no further!